Monday morning, I always try and start my Mondays with a bit of a quieter time just to figure out exactly what I want to get done this week, how I want to do it best. Been struggling over the last few years as a self-employed person with so many different tasks to do and a constant to-do list. Figuring out how to allocate things has always been hard. But I came across this idea recently, a guy called Cal Newport, and he was explaining I think he calls it multi-scale planning. And so he's basically like, think on different levels, big picture, medium picture, and short picture or short term. And so plan quarterly, plan weekly, and then plan like daily or even hourly. And so what I've done is, and I did this a few weeks back, I put down, it looks all funky on here with my filter on, but I basically put out Q2 of 2024. So like, what's that? April, May, and June. And I figured out what I want to get done in this quarter, big list of things. And then I wrote down all the different weeks that are happening in that quarter, which is obviously like roughly 12 weeks. And I've allocated rough ideas of what I want to get done each week. So, specific things happening week by week. And then the idea is on a Monday or at the start of each week, I sit down and I think, okay, what are the things that I need to get done this week, which contribute to the big picture goal, but what do I need to do this week? And then I allocate them to days and hours, and I put blocks in my calendar where I'm going to specifically work on that thing. It just feels like it's a bit easier rather than having the other options have a to-do list. So the other option, which is what I've been doing for years, is I've got a to-do list of like 50 things, and I kind of slowly work through it. And it's really hard to know like how do I prioritize things, the difference between things being important and things being urgent. And so it's helped me figure out how to allocate my time better. So I'm sitting down, I'm working that out now for this week. Main thing I'm trying to do this week is really start to plan some of the content for I mentioned this last week, but a free workshop that I'm hoping to run at some point online in the next few weeks, really just for like friends to like try something out for me. Because my business idea long term is a lot more of this sort of online teaching, training, seminar-y, workshop-y stuff. Just want to give it a go, see how it is, see what it's like, get a bit of content together. So that's what I'm working on right now. But yeah, should be a good week. Let's go. I didn't end up filming much, but I got quite a lot of the structure of what I want to do in a free workshop laid out and how that will fit into the bigger picture of what it is I'm trying to offer at the moment. There's just a couple of bits that I still want to read up on before I then start developing the content. So it's useful to block out my plan and then I can start filling in the gaps from there. Today, I've been trying to process some of the stuff that I've been reading over the last few weeks. So I showed in the last video that I was just finishing off my book, which is called Made to Stick. It was a really cool book about how ideas are sticky. Some ideas stick better than other ideas, and how can we make our ideas and the way we communicate stick with people better. But I wanted to share just really briefly my process for processing books that I read. I'm trying to read quite a lot at the moment. My whole business model relies on me having quite a high level of input, process, and then output. And so one of the key elements of that is processing. So how am I doing that? What am I doing? A few different stages to it, but essentially, as I read a book, and I'm doing that on here at the moment, got this a few weeks back on a Kindle. As I'm reading my book, I go through and highlight stuff that's interesting as I'm reading. And so you just kind of drag, highlight, whatever, sometimes add little notes in, but I'm essentially, as I'm going through, adding in little highlights. Those highlights then get carried over to the cloud and end up popping up on my laptop through the Kindle app. And then I take those highlights, once I finish the book, take those highlights, copy them all into a document. And so I then just stick all my highlights from the book, which would be like this long document. But it's all like the best bits that stuck out most to me, with some of my interesting comments when there's like particular things that I think as I read it. And then once I've done that, I then kind of wait a day so that these can start to sink in a little bit. I read through it all and wait, and then I essentially create a summary of the book. So this is what I've been doing today, creating a summary of the book where there's each of the chapters. So these are my kind of 6 or 7 chapters from the book, and I just have, that's one whole chapter, that's the next chapter, and 4 or 5 chapters is like a couple of pages worth of notes, and that's then my summary of the book, which I just find really helpful because although the book is lodged in my mind at the moment, 6 months from now I'm likely to have forgotten quite a lot of it. If I want to just quickly go back and be like, oh, what was in that chapter that I read, then rather than trying to kind of skim around in the book or whatever, I just want a helpful way to get back to it. It's also because it's all on my Notion system, it's all really searchable. So if there's like a keyword I want to look at, like, oh, what did that book say about this thing? I can just really quickly from my laptop search it up, find what it said, and pull quotes from it, pull ideas from it, and use that to generate then some of the other stuff that I'm putting into content that I'm sticking out online, or course content that I'm putting into workshops or training that I'm eventually going to be running for other people. So that's my little process. Just finished writing and uploading another article, trying to do one of those each week. Scripted 7 or 8 different Instagram posts, and I'm now filming one of those reels behind me, which is basically the stuff I was talking about yesterday, how I read and process and get as much as I can out of books. Had a call this afternoon with one of my old video clients, someone who I did a bunch of video production for in the past, doing some work with them again at the moment. But once I got off the call, I realized, I'm learning all this stuff at the moment. I'm pushing my business in a slightly different direction. Why don't I see if I can do anything useful for this particular client? So I spent a good half hour looking through their website, trying to figure out the way they're currently communicating, the way they're trying to frame their message at the moment, and realized quite a few helpful things that I could suggest and add in. So we're now exploring working together in a slightly different way, not just me making the videos they want me to make, but helping their overarching way of communicating and framing who they are and what they do. So that's exciting progress. It's been quite warm and sunny the last couple of weeks, but it's really dark today. Like it's feeling like it's already 6-7 p.m. even though it's only like 4. So the day feels like it's already done even though we're only halfway through the afternoon. But yeah, I've been doing a bit of research into how to best use Instagram stories, because it's something I've just never really figured out like a useful way of using them before in terms of getting conversations going, opening up what I'm doing to new people. So been reading and researching a bit of that. But yeah, just kind of ticking off little admin tasks this afternoon, getting boring stuff done. I shared a couple of days ago about how when I'm reading stuff or learning stuff, I try and stick it all into a big database. What I've been doing today is going through all those notes. So there's a couple of hundred here. The list just keeps on going, and these are things from books, these are ideas that I've had, these are cool things that I've heard, things that I've discovered. I'm trying to combine those together into another database that's frameworks, basically. So rather than just having 200 random ideas, I'm trying to work out how to build them together into overarching concepts where different things fit together. And the idea is that this list of probably eventually 20 to 30 things will then form a kind of curriculum, a bunch of things that I can then teach and pass on to other people, whether that's through a course, whether that's through an extended couple of months program, or whether that's just through individual conversations with friends and business owners and clients. So that's what I've been doing today. It's been a pretty good week generally. I feel like this documenting thing is really helping me just to recognize the value of all the small steps that I'm taking. It is really hard just spending days and weeks and months doing loads of tiny things that don't often feel like they're getting somewhere. And so even just looking at it as a weekly chunk and seeing, oh, this is all the stuff that I've been able to get done this week, and over the weeks it's moving me closer and closer to where I want to be, feels like a really helpful thing. So hopefully you found it interesting watching this week. Hopefully you'll have good weekends, and I'll be back again next week for more.